Good afternoon, soldiers. I am Private Brandon Kelly of the National Regiment, here with my Colonel, Tom Downs. And Colonel, I had a couple questions I wanted to ask
Sure,
you.
Brandon. Be happy to talk to you.
So I was curious, with your career in reenacting, how did you get involved in the hobby and for how long?
Well, I've been doing it for a little over 40 years and came into it through the back door. Back then I was going to look to get into miniature wargaming, and I went to a hobby shop in Cleveland to look at miniatures, and a fellow said, "Oh, you interested in Civil War?" I said, "Yeah." He said, "You ever thought about reenacting?" And I said, "What's that?" And so he told me about a gun show or a Civil War show in Ohio, and I went down and there was a unit recruiting down there, and I joined them.
Wow.
And started out with them.
Yeah. And I know, being my Colonel, we're part of a group called the National Regiment.
Yes.
Can you explain what the National Regiment is?
It's, well, on the base of it, it's a bunch of like-minded individuals who come together to portray a battalion of Civil War infantry soldiers.
Okay. And out of that battalion, how were you chosen to be the colonel who commands it?
Nobody else wanted the job. I'm sorry. No, it was a gradual progression. As I say, I've been in the hobby for many, many years. I have every rank insignia from corporal to one-star general, with the exception of sergeant major, and I've served in every one of those, positions.
And you still have those uniforms?
No, I just,
Yeah.
Well, I take that back. Some of them I have, but they seem to have shrunk.
Yeah.
And they don't fit me anymore. I used to be your size. But yeah, and so at any rate, just kind of gradually, working around. I've always had a passion for battalion drill. It's, every reenactor has some OCD thing that they're really passionate. Mine's battalion.
And I guess that's a segue into my next question, which I was going to ask, the National Regiment, or the NR, as we call it, what makes the NR so authentic? Because I know we really try to strive for that authentic federal impression.
Yeah, and there are elements in the hobby that say we're not authentic, and there are other elements that we say we're too authentic. So just trying, we're portraying Civil War soldiers. There are no Civil War soldiers around, and we're portraying it to do honor to their memory.
Yeah.
And the way to honor their memory is to try to be as much like them as a lot of gray-bearded, tubby, middle-aged men can be.
Except for me, I'm the young guy.
Yeah, well, you're the only authentically aged guy in the room.
I'm 22.
Yeah, well, there you go. I rest my case.
And I guess going along with being colonel, what was the process of how are you what process do you have to go through in order to be able to wear the eagles on your shoulders?
Well, again, working my way up through the ranks, doing the job of each rank, got to have my own unit back in Ohio, which I was then the captain of. And as the NR progressed and people came and went, there was a need for field officer, for major. And so at different events, I was asked to be the major, and then at the annual training school, I would teach battalion drill.
Okay. And
then
yes, I remember watching the movies and stuff. When I see the soldiers at the drum, I know how to do that.
Yeah,
yeah, that's really cool. And speaking of responsibilities, as colonel of the battalion, what do you have to do as your daily responsibilities?
Well, we're basically make-believe soldiers, so I don't have a lot of the day-to-day duties that an actual colonel, either modern or Civil War, would have, because we don't do this day-to-day. So my responsibility is to, as I see it, and again, other people may, have other ideas of how they want to do it, but I'm kind of the cheerleader of the organization. I've got to keep after the guys and say, look, we need to do this, and make sure we're drilled, make sure that the authenticity standards are maintained without getting anybody mad.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. And I was actually curious about, let me see here, how you coordinate the command structure with other units, working with the NR, with the Federal Alliance, for example, how we work with other organizations to form a larger unit on the field of battle. How do you determine who commands, who commands the brigade?
Well, a lot of it, the advantage is with a lot of the battalion commanders like Mifflin Guard and Vincent's, we've been around the hobby for a long time, so we're personal acquaintances or reenacting friends as close as you can be to somebody you see 3 times a year, 4 times a year.
Yeah.
So, it's a mutual thing, okay, if the National Regiment's gonna command at this event, then Mifflin can command at the next. Unless the Mifflin commander or the National Regiment commander goes, I don't wanna do it this weekend, you do it, I just wanna come out and hang out.
Okay. And speaking of that, I was curious, because with the NR, when we have a max effort event, we normally have like over 200 people there that you're responsible for. I was curious, how do you handle that pressure, like when we're in combat especially? Like with the sights and sounds of battle raging around us, you're responsible for these 200 men. How do you handle that pressure? And like what's your kind of like thought process as you're going to a battle?
One thing that, and again, I'm only speaking for myself, but I learned many years ago when I moved up to company command, whether it's commanding, I sound like Longstreet, whether it's commanding a company, a squad, a platoon,
Yeah.
I'm not commanding 200 men.
Mm-hmm.
I might be commanding 8 companies.
Okay.
So I'm not thinking about individuals, or like if I'm a company commander, I'm not commanding 20 men, individuals, I'm commanding 1 company.
Okay.
And so you, at least again, in my mind, I consider that as 1
Unit.
1 playing
Yeah.
piece. So
Mhm.
instead of trying to think of how to get 200 guys from here to here, how do I get these 8 blocks
Okay.
from here to there?
That makes a lot. That's really good. That's really impressive, sir.
Yeah, well, again, I don't know whether that's, normal, but that's,
Mhm.
or standard, but that's the way I do it.
And speaking of like your experience as a company commander and working your way through the ranks, like what advice would you give those interested like in wanting to work up to that company command and become officers? Like what's the best way to move up through the ranks?
Read,
Read.
study. And I learned that lesson many, many years ago, and I was part of a small unit.
Okay.
And so I thought, well, you know what, I've been in this unit for a while, so I showed up to an event with corporal stripes on.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody told me to do it, I just thought this would be a cool thing to do.
Yeah.
Well, at this little event, this was back in Ohio, the sergeant kind of looked at me and didn't really say anything. So we went out to skirmish with the enemy.
Mm-hmm.
And so we went out, and as you may know, that the NCOs are very much involved with skirmish.
Yes, sir.
So we went out. First shot fired, the sergeant goes, and I'm going, Gary, get up, get up. And that's when I learned, don't put the rank on until you know how to do the job.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
You were in command at that point, so it was all on you.
Yeah, but I didn't know a thing.
Yeah. Yes, sir. Okay, and what sources would you recommend with studying and reading, just as like a starting point for people who are interested in like wanting to read more and study? What would be the place to start?
Well, obviously the drill manuals of the period, Casey's and Hardy's, but there are, I don't know, again, I was lucky. I came into the hobby at a time when it was really starting to take off.
Mm-hmm.
So there were a lot of guys who went before me that basically translated the 1860 drill manuals into modern English.
Mm-hmm.
And, some of those are very helpful.
Yes. And speaking of once they learn it and are in that commanding position, and I guess also going with you being in charge of multiple chess pieces as you described
Mm-hmm.
it, when they plan out the battle, like in TVs and movies, it normally
Mm-hmm.
portrays like the commanding officers surrounding a table with a map, pointing out okay, 5th New York is going to move up this slope.
Right.
3rd Maryland's going to move on this side. Does that happen at reenactments? Do you have a strategy map and sort of plan out how it's going to go?
It depends on the event. If it is a judge tactical, then there is no plan other than the goal of each side to whatever they need to accomplish. If we're doing a battle recreation, then we try to adhere to the actual movements of, the
Different parts.
The different parts. If it's a reenactment where, everybody gets together with a strategy planning meeting and, okay, I'm gonna go here at this time, I'm gonna go over there this time. Again, another anecdote, because I'm an old man and that's what we have. Many years ago, I was a company commander and I was reenacting out west, and my battalion commander and I used to have a little friendly, we wouldn't bet, but it's just a friendly, how long will the scenario go before it goes off script?
Right, yes, I've
Okay.
experienced that as well, sir.
Well, we were at an event at Billy Creek, Indiana, and the event was supposed to start strictly at 1 o'clock. The Confederates were going to fire 2 artillery shots.
Okay.
And that was the beginning of the battle scenario. So we're staging, we're there, 5 to 1, we hear boom, boom, and Dave just took the battle plan and went. 5 minutes before it started, we're off script.
Yeah. I can see that happening. I've had.
You know, so yeah, there a lot of people put a lot of time and effort into it, and you know, sometimes it works, sometimes
But
it
it
doesn't.
also, you could say, adds some realism to it too, like as it would have like happened. You know, trying to adapt to the unknown.
Well, and this, you know, I'll follow up on your question, even though that may not be written down there. But the one thing I try to do in my mind is when we go in to do a battle reenactment, we are in a combat situation.
Mm-hmm.
So if something arises where, like, they go off script, hey, the Confederates are coming through the crowd, you know,
Yeah.
then you deal with it as a combat situation, and what would be the response to deal with that situation, whether it's on the script or not,
Mhm.
because there it is in front of you. And to ignore it, if the crowd's watching it, and all of a sudden the Confederate battalion shows up on my left flank, and I'm just ignoring them,
Yeah.
then the crowd's going,
Exactly. You gotta deal with it,
Right.
especially. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what would the Civil War soldier have done? Pretty much. Like, I'm just thinking in that situation.
Well, again, you know,
So,
it depends on the situation, it depends on, you know, the soldiers. Again, anecdote. We were doing a Newmarket, and we moved out as a battalion. This is actually before the National Regiment. This is Warren's Brigade.
Okay.
We had moved up to a position. Well, the battlefield of Newmarket, the river is down what would have been our right, but there's a trail that goes along it. Well, the Confederates, sneaky devils, they sent a battalion up along that trail, and all of a sudden they appeared, a full battalion on our
flank.
on our right rear. It's the only time I've ever seen it happen. We had about maybe 100, 120, 130 guys in our battalion. The entire battalion spontaneously, without command, broke and ran. We're screwed.
Yeah.
You know, we got to get out here as quickly as we can. But every man in that, you know, just had the same thought at the same time.
Run.
Run!
Yeah.
There's nothing you can do.
Yeah, and that really, like, you really understand and appreciate what the soldiers went through.
Yeah.
Imagining, you know, here we're portraying it as, you know, we're trying to get as close as we can. Like, your adrenaline's pumping, like, you really feel for a moment you're there, and it's just like,
Yep.
wow. It's just really,
Yep.
you magnify that emotion and passion. You just understand and appreciate what they
Well,
went through.
that's the moment when you're out at an event and you're doing something, whatever. You know, you're cooking, you're in camp, you're out in the battle, and all of a sudden you realize, you know, oh yeah, I remember reading about this.
Yeah, I know this is what it was like.
Yeah,
And it's like,
you know, so yeah.
it truly magnifies your appreciation
and
for what
brings
those
you
men went through.
closer
To
to
them.
them.
And also to the guys you're sharing this experience with this search paper
Mhm.
one time, and I was just laughing because what he said was that the veteran soldiers will pick on the new recruits exactly like freshmen, sophomores picking on freshmen.
Mm-hmm.
And what they did is they just were issued, they were at their barracks,
Mhm.
they were just issued new uniforms from the quartermaster. And so they see this recruit, or as they would call it during the time period, fresh fish.
Right.
That they would then send him back to the quartermaster because he forgot his government-issued umbrella.
Yeah.
And I'm like laughing. I was like, "That's just something my guys would do."
Yeah, there's a book, and I will send it to you when I remember the title. But I think it's Campaigning with the Army of the Potomac, and I can't remember it's first person.
Mm-hmm.
He writes an account of being asleep in his tent on a cold night,
Yeah.
and the science of rolling over without opening a gap in your blankets to let the cold air in.
You know, it was crazy. I can relate to that. When Cedar Creek happened,
Mhm.
my first Cedar Creek event, which was this past October, I was so cold. Saturday
Mhm.
night, like I had my greatcoat over me, my feet were just numb.
Yeah.
I remember for me, it was like I wasn't thinking about why am I doing this. Instead, I was praying for the sun to come up.
Yeah.
So I knew when the sun
Yeah.
came up, I'd be warm. But I remember just praying the whole night. Just, you know, not why am I doing this? Why am I here? Just please let the sun come up.
But you know, when you're in your tent and, you know, again, cold night, you get all snuggled up and your body warmth, and so now you're comfortable.
Mm-hmm.
But your hip is falling asleep. And you need to roll over, but if you do, you might break the seal and the
Exactly.
cold air will come in. Well, this is a first-person account of doing that exact thing, and it's brilliant because it's what we do.
Exactly. Small glimpse.
Yeah, yep.
First person, small glimpse
Yep.
into what the soldiers went through, and you magnify that.
Yeah.
Just, wow.
Yeah.
You know, here we get to do this once a month,
Right.
a weekend.
Yeah.
They go through that every single day.
Well, and that's the thing about, you know, making mistakes at dress parade and everything, because we, you know, it's the first time in 2 years we've done it.
Exactly.
You know, these guys did that every day.
Mm-hmm.
You know, literally, unless they were, you know, in a full blown campaign situation.
And then, also, I guess speaking of the moment and trying to get to get more reenactors involved in the hobby, what would your advice be for new recruits, and what are your goals for the NR moving forward?
Get more people your age. You know, I'm aging out.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I see the you know, authentics, progressive campaigners,
Mm-hmm.
whatever. You know, God bless them. I did that stuff 35 years ago. I can't do it. I've aged out.
Mm-hmm.
But if the hobby's to continue into the future, then we need the guys in their 20s and 30s.
Yes.
You know, otherwise, you know, we'll just wither away and die because everybody will get old and there'll be nobody to take our place.
Yes, sir, and that's why we're trying to reach out to you guys. You know, if we got soldiers, you guys are interested in joining up. National Regiment's looking for recruits. We go out to various battlefields in Maryland, Virginia, and Pennsylvania. You can go on our website, thenationalregiment.com. We have a YouTube, Instagram, Facebook page. You guys can like, comment, and follow us on there if you're interested. We'll let you know our schedule, and you can find where our units are from, so you can find one near you.
Well, a good reenacting unit is a vampire. We are always looking for new blood.
Yes, sir.
And fresh blood.
Mm-hmm. Yes, sir. So you guys hear from the Colonel himself. We're recruiting. If you guys are interested, you can follow our links down below. Thank you, Colonel Downs. It's been an absolute pleasure,
Thank
sir.
you, Brandon.
Yes, sir.
Good talking to you.
And look forward to shooting more content to you guys in the future. Thank you, and goodbye.